In a year where several beauty brands and retailers saw double and even triple-digit declines in revenue, Black-founded brands saw extraordinary growth in attention as consumers of all races used their wallets to take action after the protests and outrage of last summer. Retailers, spurred to accountability for their historical inaction and lack of inclusion by organizations that we've already talked about, like the 15% Pledge and Pull Up for Change, also began making commitments to these brands, finally creating space to support Black business. In our Brands to Watch segment, we will hear from two Black female founders making history and rising to the occasion of this pivotal moment. First up, after 15 years of working in the industry as a makeup artist and then a VP of marketing at the clean beauty brand Pure, Tisha Thompson decided to start her own brand in 2019. She wanted to make clean beauty approachable and readily available for everyone. An acronym for Love Yourself, LYS Beauty is sold exclusively at Sephora.com and is the retailer's first Black-owned Sephora Clean color cosmetics brand. And second up, as a board-certified dermatologist with over 2 decades of expertise in customizing regimens for her patients, Dr. Rosemarie Ingleton made it her mission to create a clean, effortless, and effective skincare line to address the most common skin concerns like anti-aging, blemishes, dullness, redness, and hydration. Each product in the Rose Ingleton MD skincare line is infused with a blend of natural fruit extracts native to her home island of Jamaican. So please welcome me in introducing Tisha and Dr. Rosemarie.
Hello.
Hello.
Let's do our snaps. How are you?
We are good. We're excited to be here.
It's so lovely to be here. I figured out how to get on, Ella.
I know. I'm so sorry. It's our first one, but we're making it happen. Everyone looks so lovely. So it's
amazing. So happy to be here.
Thank you. And it's wonderful to have you and Tisha together because, you are both brands that we all truly admire. You're early in your journey, but clearly you're here for the long haul. And that's why we believe that you are most definitely two brands to watch. So congrats, just for making it here.
Thank you. It's been a trip.
Yes, absolutely. So why don't we just start by posing questions to the both of you, which is just your journey. Like, how did you get started and how did you launch this, your particular brands?
Tisha, you want to go first or you want me to go?
I'll go, sure, no problem.
Sure.
So really quick, make a long story short, I actually started as a makeup artist over 15 years ago. I actually used to be a makeup artist with MAC Cosmetics. I worked part-time while I put myself through college. That was kind of my passion, my creative outlet was makeup. But I had 2 very stern, strict military parents who both served in the Army and were just like, you're not gonna be a starving artist, you're gonna go to college, you're gonna get a real job, and at the time, just they didn't see makeup as that ability for me to take care of myself. And so I went to college. I was a good steward, and I studied business administration and finance, and actually went into the corporate side of the world as my full-time job doing accounting. And that's kind of how I got into the world of corporate along the way. Ironically, and it's interesting how things happen. I really think in your life by design. I actually joined a firm that was a cosmetic company, but I didn't know they were a cosmetic company. I just answered an ad to be an accountant. I thought it was a branding agency. And I joined and I got the job, and I, started as an accountant. And within the first couple hours on the job, and I realized that they sold makeup brands, I said to the HR lady, do you have any positions open in the marketing side? And they were like, ma'am, you just started here, so I was just diligent, and I just continued to network and talking to all the right people in the right side of the business. And within 18 months, I applied to a position that opened up. I actually took a demotion because it was something I really wanted to do. I joined a coordinator position on the marketing team and just rose through the ranks. And within 4 years, I was a VP. So it was an amazing journey. It's been my passion and something that I'm just excited to have done along the way and focus on marketing and product development during that process. 12 years later, I made the decision after continuously seeing the struggles in the industry and in the space and the challenges that I faced as an executive, as a Black woman in the space, not seeing myself in the very campaigns that I was directed to execute, just those struggles. And for me, once I had that seat at the table, I made my voice heard. And that's kind of how I got into, really fighting for more diversity within the space. And so that's a little bit of how I got into my role. I won't take up too much time, but that's essentially how I started and how I got to pretty much being on the corporate side of beauty.
In the beauty space.
Yeah.
And we'll get to the actual brand launch,
Yes.
which was super exciting. And we were happy to be a part of that. Kudos to you. Dr. Ingleton, you certainly have a thriving practice. I mean, I heard about you way before I ever met you at dinner parties. And everyone was like, you have to meet Dr. Ingleton. So tell us about your journey and then the decision to get into on the brand side of it.
It's crazy. I have to say it's been a crazy journey. Just even becoming a dermatologist was a crazy journey. I was a super long shot because I see Dr. Mitchell's on the panel as well.
Yeah.
It is one of the most difficult fields to get a position in. There's almost no spots available. Hundreds and thousands of people vying for like a few spots. So to have even been able to become a dermatologist was a really big deal for me. And I'm entrepreneurial in spirit. I started off working for people when I graduated from my residency program. And within a year, I realized I couldn't do it. The way that people run their practices and the way they approach patients just wasn't working for me. I had a whole concept of how people should be treated. And I started a practice like with no money, like crazy, just, wrote some plans up on a paper, started a practice, not just any old place, but in Soho, like the hottest location in Manhattan. And rapidly grew, a practice from zero to one where I couldn't, after 3 or 4 years, I couldn't work in a space with other people anymore. I needed to go find my own space. I never thought that was going to happen. And so I moved to a new location. I built, I continued to build my practice, and just, this is, the path has always been one that was driven by patients. And going on to develop the skincare line was also driven by patients, because I've been in regimens for them for forever. And, I kept seeing patterns. I saw that whatever I did, because I know the science, whatever I did was giving great results. And people kept asking, so why you don't have your own skincare line? Why are you always selling us other people's stuff and sending us to Walgreens and, everywhere else to buy stuff? So I slowly but surely created my concept of what I wanted to do to satisfy the needs of the patients, because I just found that they were all asking really for the same stuff. They ask it in different ways, but the problems kind of came back down to 4 things. And that's how I created the serums and stuff, which I will talk about later. But my path has really been driven by patients the whole time. Doing a business, starting a dermatology practice, I learned about business through the back door, unlike Tisha, who actually has training in marketing and business. I was just doing whatever I knew from being a salesperson. I used to work sales when I was in college. I worked in every department store doing sales. So I understood customer service. I understood, just dealing with people in general. But the business side really just came from inside. I just followed my gut, and very organized person. So I thought just, creating plans and executing and figuring out who you need to help you to execute was the major part of what I was challenged by and had to do.
Yeah, and I think driven by patients, that's definitely a nugget of wisdom that I think we should all like take with us. And for both of you, I mean, you're both approaching beauty in, you know, from your own lanes, but you're also approaching it with deep expertise. You on the skincare side, I had your products. I love them. I mean, absolutely. And they do work. Absolutely.
They do.
Yes, they do work. And Tisha, with you rather, you know, you have that beauty industry experience. I mean, you were, if we can say, you were at Pure, right? And you worked across a number of different functions. And so when we look at your products right now, they are products that will stand up to any other makeup brand. I mean, if anyone has seen LYS or if you've seen Rose MD Skincare, it's not even about being a Black female-owned brand. Your product stands up against anyone's, and so it's a testimony just to the level of execution. So can you just talk about what you are looking for when you're putting together your brand from a packaging standpoint, from who your target customer is? You're certainly occupying that sort of luxury space. So talk about like your eye, if you will. And I'll Tisha,
who would you like to go first? Tisha?
Oh, whomever. I mean, we're just talking. Let's just pretend we're all on the phone just chatting, and folks happen to be listening in.
I definitely came to this from the luxury space with the intention to create something that was luxurious. It wasn't specifically targeting people of color, but had to, in effect, attack the things that people of color needed, because a large part of my patient population is people of color. But I never saw things that were, luxurious on the shelves that were representing us. And I wanted my product to be competing with things like La Mer and Revive and all of these, and Sturm and all the things that are like super luxury, but I wanted it to be accessible. So I made sure that I made the products in a clean manner, right? So, everyone cares about what's in their stuff.
Yeah.
As a dermatologist, I made sure there was no fragrance in the products, none of the major allergens, mineral oils, things that we don't want and things that cause other problems. I made sure to make those things be out of the picture. And then packaging wise, I wanted my stuff to look beautiful. I want it to look clean. I want it to feel like there's, when you put it in your hand, it's a glass jar for the moisturizer, and the bottles are like little milk bottles.
Yeah.
I wanted it to feel substantial. I wanted people to realize that thought was put into making it not just be like feeling like a throwaway product. The design of it, the way it feels, the elegance of the application, the finish, all of that was super, super important to me. And I thought that we deserve to have a product that is of the level that, like the La Mers of the world. I would go back to that often. That was very, very important to me, and the whole way.
Yeah.
The way it's presented.
Black luxury. Black luxury. Yes. And Tisha, talk about yours. I mean, the design, the packaging. I mean, you were very, very intentional with yours.
I was really intentional, and I would have to say the exact same in terms of wanting to really have luxurious packaging with an accessible price point. For me, it was making sure that a lot of times when you see clean beauty and things that are presented in this space, it's just not created for us. It's a lot of it actually of an afterthought. And I wanted it to come with Black people in mind to start, really a lens, from the lens of a multicultural consumer, targeting the issues that we actually face. And so, a lot of my products, the formulations really focus on hyperpigmentation, uneven skin tone, oily skin types. I really wanted to make sure that I was intentional in terms of the formulation. And then on top of that, the packaging, I wanted it to also feel very luxurious. I love pretty things. I'm a girly girl, and I wanted something that I could be proud of. The shape itself had a lot of meaning for me. It represents the Delta symbol, which means change. And it's a lot of the mission that I want to carry throughout the entire brand and what our ethos is about. And it's It's about changing this perception of the standard of beauty and what this notion of clean beauty represents, right? It's like, I mean, who do they think they are to, you know, to shove these connotations of what clean is at us, you know? And so I wanted to be a part of and a catalyst of that change. So that's the representation of the shape itself. And so all of the products are shaped that way. And then the product names, I was intentional with the names, right? I wanted the names to also be these gentle reminders as I'm using them and as I was creating them. It was a struggle. It was a struggle. It was a risk.
The names. The names are very purposeful.
Yeah, like strength and courage, ambition and resilience, loyalty and kindness, right? Like all of these things that we possess and that I wanted to remind myself in those moments where I felt like, do I deserve this? Can I do this? Am I worthy of this? And I am. So I actually created a shade, worthy, like you are worthy, you can and deserve to do this. And so we deserve to be a part of this conversation. We deserve to have brands. We're spending our money making these brands a lot of money, and they're not necessarily coming at it at an angle for us. And so I wanted to be a part of that change. And so I wanted to make sure the names reminded me when times got hard, you got this, sis, keep going. So that was a little bit of the reasoning behind the names.
And I mean, you absolutely have I would say, a purpose-driven brand. It's done with a great deal of intention. I want to shift gears to just ask a question. What a time to be a Black woman in beauty, right? I mean, Dr. Ingleton, is this not a great time?
Incredible.
Yeah.
I would have never thought. I mean,
you are in Neiman Marcus. You are, right? You're
crazy.
Everywhere. It's like, yeah.
No, seriously, Ella, I launched this line in September of 2019.
Yes.
And the reason I launched when I did was because I was waiting to get my big story in Vogue magazine. Okay, they were promising me a story.
It was lovely. It was really lovely. Yeah.
It was going to drop in September. So I thought that's kind of sexy, you know, launching in Vogue as my openings, you know, come on, really? Yeah. So I was just kind of trickling along for the latter part of that year, you know, getting the word out about the brand. But when we went into shutdown mode in around March, things completely turned around because I discovered Instagram, you know, doing Instagram lives, and realized that it was such a great platform to get the word out. And the numbers went crazy after that, like the number of people who were starting to buy because they knew who I was. They were hearing my voice on Instagram. But additionally, retailers started coming to me, like out of the blue. My first one was a small company called Knockout Beauty. They have 3 locations. One is in LA, one is in the Hamptons, and one is in Upper East Side. Yeah. And this is the owner is someone I've known for years. And she just kind of came out to me and asked me to have her be my first retailer. So it started with them, but then C.O. Bigelow called like a month later, and then Neiman Marcus, and then Saks, and then Nordstrom's, whom I couldn't do the deal with because Sephora came along and wanted to have an exclusive, and they're like vying. I'm like, what is going on here?
I love it though, right? I love it.
Being like, you know, just trying to climb to all of these people saying, listen, you know, the time is right. We want to have more representation of Black-owned brands on our shelves, and you are poised with the products that you've created, the response that people have shown in the marketplace to the products has made us, you know, these different retailers want to have you be part of this conversation. And so they're all doing their version of Black is beautiful.
Yes, yes. And look, we will take it. We'll take it.
I'll take it. But that's what it took to get attention.
Absolutely. And Tisha, you launching at Sephora, the first, we talk about Black history, we're moving into women's history, the first Black-owned clean cosmetics brand.
Love it, love it.
I mean, this is Sephora.
Love it.
I mean, let's just pause for a second and just
I know, right?
yeah, shower you with a lot of
Oh,
love.
Thank you. It's
How,
awesome, such an honor. I mean, for me, a lot of people ask, like, did they reach out? How did you get Sephora? It's very interesting because in 2019, when I started this process and made a realization, like, this is what I want to do. I want to have my own brand, and really started the process. When we went into shutdown mode, I honestly was like, what am I going to do now? Like, where do I go? What do I do? And honestly, I just cold called. I call it cold call, but it was through an email. But I just reached out to anybody and anybody at Sephora executive level that I would hope would answer my email, with all the business plans and the pitch information. And I got an email back, and I remember like losing my mind, like, oh my God, I think I just got an email back from Sephora, right? And then we started the conversations, and the rest is history. It was one of those moments where, and a lot of people,
and I'll just say this: Sephora is on, and they're like, "We're so thrilled to have LYS." So kudos, yes.
so for me, I would say, as an advice to a lot of entrepreneurs out there, if you're struggling and trying to find an opportunity for you, don't give up. A lot of times retailers just may not know that your brand exists. They may not know that you're out there.
exactly.
So you may feel challenged to reach out to them directly, or if they're having what they, maybe have, programs like they're doing their Accelerate program or different initiatives where you can get seen by these retailers. Don't think that the opportunities don't exist. So that would be my advice, to
Yeah,
anyone who's starting a brand, trying to get in. It's definitely timing, I think, right? I think everything in life
absolutely.
is timing.
Yeah,
I think I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. I sent that email on the right day. It just,
yeah,
everything worked out, but I wasn't fearful. I didn't sit back and say, no, Sephora would never, they don't have any clean brands. They know, I didn't think like that. I just made the decision to just shoot my shot, and it worked out.
Shoot your
I,
shot.
just as a comparison, Tisha, I actually had my people reach out to Sephora in the early days, and
Yeah.
we didn't get a response. There was nothing, they weren't interested at that point. But then I got a reintroduction. An executive at Sephora that I knew introduced me to, them again. And they're like, oh, wait a minute,
Mhm.
we're interested now. Because it was
Yeah.
right after they had done their 15% pledge.
Exactly.
So it's not unusual to get shot down the first time, not getting a response, but you can't just give up. I'm not one who gives up, and just went at it a different way, got another introduction. And I'm getting ready to launch on March 23rd, by the way,
Ooh-wee.
Sephora.com. I'm just like
Yes.
beyond thrilled.
And we have to
So
like
you're setting the stage
amplify
for me,
that.
Tisha.
We'll amplify that. Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes.
Um, so let's talk about your future, or our collective future as Black women in beauty. How do we make this moment a movement? And how do we gain equity and gain our fair share, if you will, of this beauty landscape, this beauty pie? Like, how do we make this last?
Well, I can say, I think that if you have a concept and you have an idea and you definitely feel like it's a product that people would be interested in, it's unique, it's different, you have a story, you have a point of difference, and you want to start your brand, I think that a lot of times we feel like the market is oversaturated. Do we need another brand? But I think that the more Black-owned beauty brands and skincare brands that we can have, I think the better. I think that in terms of, if you're not interested, not everybody's interested in starting their own brand. Not everybody wants to be a brand owner or founder, and that's fine. I think if you're in the space of on the corporate side or the executive side, definitely making your voices heard where you can up the ladder to be able to make change within these brands that may not be Black owned. I also think that brands need to do better, and there's a lot of organizations. I think what Sharon is doing is really great, and what the retailers are doing is really great as well, is making sure to fight the fight in hiring more Black people to have seats at the table. I mean, we may have entry level or mid-level management positions, but there's not enough of us in the C-suite positions. There's not enough of us sitting on boards of these companies. And I think that's where the real change will continue to have a major impact. So that's what I want to continue to see and be a part of that, you know, busting down the glass ceiling, if you will. You know, we're the first, but I surely hope we're not the last. And so for me, it's all about reaching down and bringing that next beautiful Black woman up with me. And, you know, there's just so much work to be done, and there's so much room for all of us. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And, you know, on a one-on-one level, what I'm going to try to do, which is always the way I've done things, is to, now that I've been let in the door, I will perform. I will create other products that are of the same high level of quality, that will show results, that will make them feel and realize that this was not a mistake to let me in. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly what people are looking for in skincare, and you just have to allow me a chance, and I will perform. So I think just showing up and doing a great job, so that they will continue to want to have other people like you be brought into the fold.
But on the other end, we need to also remember to support each other. And that's kind of some feedback to, you know, anyone kind of on the call and listening, you know, support these Black businesses, right? Making sure we patron them and spend our money on them and advocate for them, because I think we definitely want to make sure these brands perform in these spaces so they continue to give us more of these opportunities. We definitely don't want to perpetuate this notion of we don't buy these products. You know, it's like we do, and so we need to support those brands that have them, which is great.
That is key.
Absolutely. I think we can all just go into our beauty closets, into our medicine cabinets, and look like how many Black-owned brands are on your shelves right now, right? Skincare, makeup. We know we cover hair care because we have no choice. But skincare, makeup, what do we see in there? So that's really the opportunity. I'm going to open it up because I know a lot of folks are thrilled. We have one thing about 25 Black Women in Beauty. I would say about 70% of our members are entrepreneurs. That's how they classify. They may have full-time jobs, but they don't mention it. They are entrepreneurs and they're pursuing their craft. So I want to open it up and to questions. Let's see, who do we have? Nanette?
Sure, I'll read a question that has been submitted too from Robin. She asked, what is the timeline from concept to consumer? I think a lot of people want to understand what happens in the lab before you start putting together the pitch decks and the cold calls and all of that. What does the grind kind of look like before you kind of debut?
For my brand, it took me 3 years from starting the process, you know, with my concept, to getting on shelf, like getting in the business rather of selling online. Because there are a lot of steps before that. First, I had a concept, then I had to find a lab that was willing to work with me to execute what I had in my brain. And that's, by the way, a challenge unto itself. If you're small, I found that most of the labs would not even take our phone calls. I had someone calling around for me and they were like, you're too small. And first of all, we don't even talk to people who are not going to order at least 20,000 of each of the units. So, you know, no time for you. I literally had to work connections to get an introduction to a lab that would even help me. The lab work itself took about 6 months, I would say, because I'm very particular. I was back and forth. No, it's not right. Do it again. No, take this out, put that in. So that took me about 6 months. And then once the products were formulated, I started working on, you know, packaging and all the other things that go into, like, what do you do now that you have a product? You got to put it in something. That was probably another 6 months to 9 months. And then, you know, the rest of it, the time is spent on production. I found that with the labs that I'm working with, once I actually place a purchase order to have things made, that's going to be at least 3 months, sometimes 4. It takes a really long time. And if your packaging is from another country, like mine is from China, you have to deal with, you know, importing. So those are really important factors you have to put into the equation. It's not just make something and it's ready to go. There are people, in China that you have to deal with the Chinese New Year. So they shut down for like a whole month. So if you're trying to launch something around the beginning of the year, the timeline gets extended. It could be 4 months, 5 months before you can get your packaging from someone. So it takes a long time.
I would agree. Yeah, for me, it took about 2 years. I think that was a very, very thorough explanation, because that's exactly that same process that I went through as well.
Yeah.
Amazing. And then a question that's come up a couple of times in Q&A, and I don't even know if we have time to cover it, but the topic of funding and how to invest, and how do you fuel this business for the 2 years, 3 years in development until you kind of get a major, organization or bank to bite, or self-funding. A lot of people are asking about that.
So I can speak to that. So I am self-funded, as well as I have angel investors out of the gate. So for me, I knew that, I wanted to go retail. It's where my experience is. So I knew that was kind of a vision for me right out of the gate. So, so when I decided, or when I landed Sephora, I made the decision to bring in some angel investing so that I can support them. It's very expensive to manage the inventory and the infrastructure and everything, the operation side, logistics, all of what it takes to do all of that. So I, took my life savings as well as my inheritance. My father recently passed. And so that was kind of the ability for me to invest in my future, as well as some angel investing. And right now, that's kind of what I'm operating on. I'm hoping the cash flow side of the business will stay strong and healthy as we continue to secure more business with Sephora, that will be able to stay that way and not have to bring in any VC anytime soon. But that's definitely something I think as a long-term solution that I have experience in doing in my former life. And I'm open to that if the timing is right in the future. But, I'm not, that sort of thing comes with dilution and those sorts of things. So it's making the decision if you want to make those moves in your business, but you just have to make those gambles based on the growth and where you want to go. But where we are right now, I'm happy to kind of keep it small and concise and build from there.
We have very similar paths. I'm self-funded as well. The initial money for making the product, for actually developing the product, getting all the testing done, all of that stuff was self-funded. But to get to, it's very expensive. The amount of testing that you have to go through, I had to set up a whole new company, separate from my dermatology practice. And setting up a corporation is not cheap. I mean, the legal expenses were fast becoming the most costly part of my equation. So I blew through.
Can we double click on that? Because let's talk about it. Because let's talk about how much money, quite frankly, or capital it takes to launch a brand. What sort of commitment do you think is required in your experience?
It depends on the level, right? It depends on like what you're trying to create. And because I was trying to get into that luxury space, I think part of my expense was related to that. But there's a lot that goes into a product. So you can't just make something and then start selling it. There's extensive testing that has to go on, microbiology testing, compatibility testing between your product and the package that you're putting it in. They have to check on temperature controls. Like if your product is to be put in a warehouse somewhere at 90 degrees and you have no control over the temperature of the warehouse, how long will your product stay active and not disintegrate? The costs associated with, transporting your stuff from a warehouse, from the lab to the warehouse, the cost of, transporting your stuff from China, like I said, my packaging having to come on a boat from China to the US. And then it's just, there's so many logistical parts to the equation, and the costs are immense. Starting a company, my corporation was formed in Delaware because I was told that's where you're supposed to form a corporation when you're doing businesses of my sort. So I did that, got a law firm there, and they started charging me, man, by the hour, every conversation, every email, it's crazy.
After this process, I should have been a lawyer.
I should have been a lawyer. Like, I'm scared to ask a question pretty much because I know it's going to be another, $1,000 $2,000, $14,000, you know, but we're talking a few $100,000 to get the product from concept to being ready to sell. So I took on, I basically used up all my savings as well. And then I went out to friends and family investors to try to match the amount that I'd invested. And I was very fortunate. I actually was able to come, you know, get exactly an equivalent amount from them. And that's what I've operated on from the point that I started 3+ years, well, 4 years ago at this point, right? And now I'm relying on the funds that are coming in from the sale of the products. And we're just about to do our very first reorder of the moisturizer, which is really, I can't believe I'm selling out of something.
Yes, yes.
Awesome.
Oh, I forgot to mention, by the way, I have to boast just a little bit that I'm on Net-a-Porter.
Yes, yes. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Net-a-Porter. Yeah.
The reason I thought of that just now is because Net-a-Porter sold out of my moisturizer last week. I'm like, that's hot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Instead of thinking that I should have maybe supplied them with more, they should have asked for more. But back to the topic of just, you know, the costs of doing business. I invested personally, you know, several $100,000, which is just all that I had in the bank. And I thought, if not now, when? I have to take a risk, a chance on myself. And if I don't take a chance on myself, no one else is going to want to invest in me, which is exactly the way investors look at this. If you go to people and ask them to help with your dream, they ask a lot of questions. You know, even if they're mega millionaires, they're not just going to give you money because you're a nice person. You have to have a proof of concept. You have to have a pitch deck, which again, you have to hire someone to do that, right? So you're hiring people to do lots and lots of things. I have tons of consultants because I'm a doctor, I'm a dermatologist. I happen to know, you know, beauty because, you know, I work peripherally in beauty, but I don't know marketing. I don't know operations, how to get things from point A to point B. I'm not a lawyer. You know, there's so many people that you have to rely on, and all those people come with fees. You have to pay retainers to everyone, you know, by the month to be able to get things done. You can't do it by yourself. So now that I look back, I can see where all the money went. But the good thing is that, you know, things are selling, and so money's coming back in, and I'm just recycling. I don't want to go to VC as well. I want to keep my business where it is, have it funded by people who I know. And I'm actually just now looking into the possibility of taking on a purchase order loan if I think it becomes necessary to afford, especially the Sephora launch, because what they ask for are really vast amounts of everything. And it costs a lot of money to have the products on hand to sell to them, to give to them to sell.
So, I mean, so many nuggets. So the session is being recorded, but hopefully you guys are taking copious notes as well, because I think all this is very helpful. As we go ahead and wind this down and prep for our next session, could you two just give us some, you know, to the entrepreneurs in the room, final words of wisdom and insight and inspiration, if you will?
So I'll say that one of the biggest things I would say in terms of something that's been useful for me is focusing on not just the product side of the business. I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're the product people. We're the creators of the product. That's our vision, our mission. We concept and create them, and we want to share those with the world. But taking that time to also focus on the really strategic side of the business is critical too. Really, that financial literacy, understanding everything from your cost of goods, your operation costs, you know, really truly understanding, you know, everything it takes to operate the business is really, really important, because just as good as your product is, if you make the one wrong move or one bad decision, could could be detrimental to the success and health of your business. So I think it's just very important to just really keep both of those elements in mind, really focus on the product, but also, and if you hire people who are going to help you, that's great too. But if you don't have the ability to hire those people early on, just take the time to learn and invest in that knowledge for yourself, because I think that that will help your business grow long term. I think just really having a strong, healthy business financially, just as much as having amazing and incredible products, is what makes the heartbeat of your company long term. That's what makes you scalable, in my opinion.
Ditto. I agree. Definitely, you know, the organization of your company is very, very important. It's not good enough just to create something beautiful and effective if you don't have a proper plan on how you're going to get, first of all, the word out, how you're going to get it to market. And if you don't have strengths in all these areas, and nobody's going to know everything, right? You may know how to develop something, but you may not know how to market it, or you may not know how to get the word out and how to finance the whole thing. Just call on people, you know, speak to those who have done it before you. I cold call people. I called up, you know, the founder of Carol's Daughter. Our kids went to school early on, so I knew her, but I've never asked her business questions before. I just called her. I'm like, Lisa, how'd you do it? You know, how did you find a person to do X, Y, and Z? So talk to people who have done it before. Talk to me. You know, I'm happy to share information on my path. I mean, I've made mistakes. You know, there are definitely going to be mistakes. You're going to find you wasted money on something because you thought you vetted the person properly and they sound really good and it sounds like they're really talented. And then, you know, several $1,000s later, you realize that they really didn't know. They, you know, they weren't the right fit. So don't be scared to take chances, but really look at the picture, the big picture. I see someone just wrote a note about mentors. Use your mentors. Look at people who have done it before. You don't have to recreate the wheel. I think that's all I have to say.
No, that's a lot. That's a lot. So thank you both, and congratulations to the both of you. We are just so happy for you. Just want to surround you and lift you up and support you. So congratulations.
And thank you for everything that you all are doing for everyone on this call and being able to put this together. This is just so insightful and incredible. And I'm just thankful for you guys really taking this initiative to really make our community stronger and strengthening us. So thank you so much. This is amazing.
Yes, really. Thank you guys really very much. It's wonderful to be on this panel with you, Tisha.
Me too.
And because it's interesting to hear our stories being so similar. I mean, we're from totally different worlds, but the path is very similar and the challenges are similar. And thank you, 25 BWB, for bringing this together. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Amazing.
Awesome. All right, Nanette, it's all yours.